Hi, my name is Amu. I'm an RN, works in Toronto. I recently started making videos about IBS because I personally suffer from IBS and SIBO, and I'm doing research on these two topics. So I thought I'll document the journey I'm going through and share with the people on the YouTube that might help some of you. This video, I'm going to talk about IBS diet, which is a FODMAP diet. Honestly speaking, I get really excited when I talk about this topic because I do suffer from IBS for the past couple of years. My life is all about gut health because every single thing I do is connecting to my gut. So I have to be very careful, and my brain always think about the gut. I think they're in love. If anybody want to know about IBS, you can check this video. This is the video I created about IBS, and you can check in my YouTube channel. I'll put it on the description. So let's talk about the IBS diet. It's a FODMAP diet. FODMAP diet is a temporary eating plan we use to relieve the symptoms of IBS, which we do at least for 2 to 6 weeks. If you have an IBS, this is one of the best diet you can try. Disclaimer, I'm not a dietitian, I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not a health coach. I am an RN giving this information through my experience, and I have done this diet. That's why I'm sharing this with you guys. But if you have multiple health issues in your life and you want to try this FODMAP diet, you must have to find a professional help, because sometimes when you do this for 2 to 6 weeks, you might get issue with your other health issues. First, talk to a healthcare professional, and then if they approve it for you, then you can start doing this. That's one of the best way you can start this one. The main purpose of doing this diet is to identify the food triggers and relieving the symptoms by reducing the food high in FODMAP, which will help you find if that's going to relieve your symptoms. So that's the main purpose. And this is not a permanent diet you can follow. That's not a healthy diet. So you just have to follow this for 2 to 6 weeks to avoid or relieve the IBS symptoms. The studies and the research show that 75% of the people who did this diet actually helped them relieve the IBS symptoms, but there's no 100%. So which means it may not help you. Once you're done with the 2 to 6 weeks of doing this diet, then the next phase is to gradually bring back the food to find out the food tolerance. So in that way, you can come back to the normal diet. So same like that, you have to figure out a long-term plan to avoid certain foods in your life. Talking about the FODMAP diet, low FODMAP diet was developed by researchers at Monash University in Melbourne, Australia, led by the Professor Peter Gibson and Dr. Stu Shepard. They have done this in the early 20s. They have started and they have published in 2005. The team identified that restricting some short chain carbohydrates significantly reduces the symptoms of IBS. When you look into their website, you can find a lot of info for your own research and see the experiments they have done and the research they have done. If you're interested, you can check. So I have done this diet in the last year, 2025. It's called FODMAP diet. So F for fermentable, O for oligosaccharides, D for disaccharides, M for monosaccharides, and polyols. The fermentable: wheat, rye, garlic, artichokes. Oligosaccharides, which means fiber, is in beans, lentils, and chickpeas. Disaccharides is in milk, yogurt, ice cream, pudding, and custard. Monosaccharides is fructose. That's the main number one cause triggering IBS symptoms. I used to get scared of looking at that kind of foods. High in fructose foods simply means high in glucose. Very mindful about the chocolates I eat. The dark chocolate and all that you should be able to eat. And the regular chocolates also you should be able to eat, but you have to clearly pick the right one. The last one is polyols, which is sugar-free gums, blackberries, apple, pears. Imagine blackberries, apples, peach. Apple is one of the healthiest food in the world, but for IBS people, eating apple might trigger your symptoms. These are the food comes in the FODMAP, so I'm going to explain further. Low FODMAP diet means you don't need to avoid these ones completely. You still can have, but with a very limited portion. So let's dive deep into these products. So the first one I want to go for is the sweetener triggers. The food high in fructose will cause you this abdominal pain and bloating for sure. So try to lower the intake at least for 6 weeks, and you can slowly introduce, but still in a very limited portion, because that's gonna help you relieve the symptoms. These ones, honey, chewing gums which has sugar in it, and corn syrup. If you're watching this video and you're planning to do the FODMAP diet, always be mindful that you can still have these things, but for very limited portion. And this is the low FODMAP sweets. You can have dark chocolate, you can have regular chocolate, and you can have maple syrup. Sometimes I do have maple syrup and that doesn't affect my symptoms. So you should be able to have, but very limited, once in a while should be okay. But the dark chocolate, it's good for you in many ways, so you can have it. And the regular chocolates, which is not high in sugar or sweeteners, that should be, you should be able to. And the regular sugar, let's say you're having a black tea or black coffee and you want to have sugar, you should be able to put that sugar in your coffee or tea without triggering your symptoms if it is not too much. If it's too much, again, that's going to trigger your symptoms. But these are the low FODMAP sweets. Fruit triggers. So these fruits which I'm showing right here, most of them are very healthy fruits you can have every single day. And the people who do diets to reduce the weight, I do have these kind of fruits. But for the IBS people, this trigger pain. The main reason why this trigger pain is because this fruits have high sweetener level, high sugar level on this one. That's why that's trigger pain in your stomach. For me, I cannot have sugar cane. I am able to drink watermelon juice. I'm able to have a slice of watermelon without pain, but I cannot have sugar canes because that has high fructose content. These are the fruits you can have it. These are low FODMAP fruits. And let's talk about the protein triggers. So for me, when I have the green legume, I usually don't have any issue. I don't eat much. I eat very little. And even when I had the IBS, severe IBS symptoms, I used to have this legume, the green one, and I was able to manage without symptoms. Each person has their own different kind of triggers. Not everyone will get trigger for each of these. Some you might get triggered, some you may not. So it depends on that, you might be able to eat. These are the low FODMAP proteins. You can have chicken, salmon, egg, paneer. When I did this diet, I had to avoid the egg for 6 weeks because to me, egg was one of the most triggering food for my IBS. Once I ate the egg, within like 10 minutes, I used to have severe abdominal pain and bloating, which will stay for at least 5 hours. That's the main thing. People who live with IBS pain, I feel for you. I wanna help you because I know how this affects your day-to-day life. Because if you have pain for 5 hours, you're just had your breakfast with egg and it's trigger your pain, and for 5 hours you have pain. Imagine the whole day is done. Your family have to suffer through this because you're in pain, so they cannot really do anything. They have to stay with you because you're in pain, and so it affects your whole life. So I really want each one of you to get better to an extent so we can live our life without this stupid pain. Anyway, I get emotional when I talk about this because I suffered a lot because of this IBS. So now the grain triggers. You may not be able to eat most of your bread and most of these kind of sugary cereals. That's going to trigger because again, it's connected to the fructose. That's why these ones triggers. And these are, the bread is usually fermented one, so you cannot really have it. To me personally, I cannot eat the wheat bread. I can eat the white bread, but I cannot eat the wheat bread, the brown bread, till today. You can have these ones, the plain cereals. I do still eat the plain cereals and the oats. You can have the regular cereals, quinoa and oats and white rice. That's one of the best thing because when I had these symptoms, what I used to eat is just curd and this rice, the white rice and curd. And this one, dairy products. This is one of the main topic. I love my tea. I used to drink tea in the morning and in the evening every single day. And then all of a sudden I got this IBS issue, and almost for a year I didn't drink tea. Because when I used to drink tea, I used to get severe pain and bloating, and the milk used to trigger my IBS symptoms. So I just completely avoided for a year, and then slowly when I introduced, then now I have my tea every single day in the morning, just one tea and done. Ice cream, milk, whatever comes with the milk, you cannot have it. What you can have is almond milk. Certain cheese I am not confident enough to buy from the store because we don't know what they fill into that. Again, if they fill with fructose, milk contents and everything, then that's gonna affect your IBS symptoms again. Unless you make it at your home, I wouldn't recommend almond milk. And then cheese, certain cheese will trigger your IBS symptoms, but you have to slowly introduce one by one and see which one triggers, so you can avoid some cheese. This is one of my favorite two nuts, and I used not to eat because pistachios used to give me a really bad pain, and of course cashews too. So I used to avoid these two, and it's high in FODMAP, so it's better for you to avoid for the 6 weeks. So the nuts you can have is the walnuts and peanuts and all that. When we come to the vegetables, that's main thing. If you're an Indian, again, if you're an Asian, onions and garlic is one of our best friends. One of the vegetables goes into every single meal of our life. This one trigger your IBS, so you have to avoid these ones or reduce the amount you're using. And beans, mushrooms, all these should be avoided for certain extent. Low FODMAP vegetables, this is one of my favorite ones. I don't usually eat salads, but people who eat salads, you should be able to make salads with these products. And these are the foods you can and you cannot have, which is high in FODMAP and low in FODMAP. So here for the IBS, we follow the low FODMAP diet, which will help you relieve your IBS symptoms. But you're eating something, you don't have a break. You ate your lunch, then you don't have a break to your stomach, and then you're adding another food within 2 hours of you eating the lunch. Might overload your stomach and bowels and might trigger IBS symptoms. So having portion control and limiting the food which triggers your abdominal pain and bloating, plus having a proper window between your meals, actually helps with your IBS symptoms. Again, I hope one day we can all have a happy gut, and thanks for watching my video, and see you on my next video. Bye.